I hope you guys are having a wonderful National Video Games Day. I have no clue what that has to do with anything, but you know what? I don't even know how you celebrate that. We just play video games? Or do we put video games under a tree? Do we go trick-or-treating for video games? I don't freaking know, but we do have an update for yesterday's video talking about ROM Universe, the best ROM site in the universe, and a Matthew Storman, the owner of this website. There's some conspiracies going on here. I think there's something. I got some crazy stuff going on in my head about this whole story. And yesterday I mentioned something. I don't remember specifically what, but I said, now this dude's got to have balls to be doing whatever it was he was doing. People corrected me, said, no, the mofo is stupid. There's nothing to do with balls. And that may be true, but what the heck is wrong with this guy? And this is what leads me to possibly some conspiracies going on here, because he obviously knows about this lawsuit. I've been stalking their Discord, seeing what's going on. It's pretty dead over there. But they're continuing uploading games. Today they've uploaded at least 5 Nintendo Switch games. On their Discord, they have a bot that announces new uploads. And I've been like, they're really uploading stuff. So many other sites and people that got in trouble, they folded immediately. They're like, we're out. Cease and desist, lawsuit, whatever. We're out. It's over. Shut it down. Let's figure this out. This dude is not doing that. They're still uploading. And obviously, like I said, he knows about the lawsuit, because right here, heard about the lawsuit, want to help defend ROM Universe and your rights? Has nothing to do with him doing something illegal. It has to do with your rights. What rights do you have that he's trying to defend here? So he's trying to pressure you into donating. He wants either $30, $100, or $1,000 donation from you. I believe that's gumroad.com. They allow you to take payments. That's what the little logo looks like. There's no in between. Those are just the donations that are offered. And it leads me to believe something fishy is really going on here. This dude is charging for access to the website, still uploading games, asking for donations where there's no scale, where you can't just be like, you know what? I dug this place. Let me give him $5. I really can't afford much else. No, he wants 30, 100, or 1,000. I'm starting to think, because I've been digging into this guy as much as I can, and I don't want to implicate somebody who's not involved, but I've been uncovering a lot of information, multiple websites that are owned by the same person, it appears, social media accounts that are privated recently or deleted, images being removed of the individual from said social media accounts. So I'm kind of curious, is this guy who they think he is? Is this the actual person in California, or is something else going on here? I'm not a rocket scientist. I'm not that, technically inclined to really be a detective Pikachu and dig into these things. But, with my limited capabilities, I have. But even when you look at the who is data, or even the history of it, I'm getting conflicting information. So I'm starting to wonder, is this somebody who doesn't exist, or doesn't exist in the sense that they think? Is this somebody who is abroad? Is this just a front? Is the name a fake name? Is the Matthew Storman not even involved? Is these 10 John or Jane Does not who we don't know who they are. Do they exist? I don't know. I'm starting to wonder, because the dude's you got to think about this. He's still uploading games. He's taking donations. He's taking money for you to download games. And he's trying to guilt you into think that your rights are being violated by Nintendo issuing a lawsuit. So to me, not folding, not shutting down the website leads me to believe that the dude just doesn't give a shit, or he's untouchable in the sense that he's not who they think he is. If he's not in California, if he's not Matthew Storman, then I have nothing to worry about then. And he could collect this money from you guys. Or not you guys, 'cause I really don't think anybody watching my video is going to donate to this, but he could collect money from those willing people who think that he's helping them defend their rights. It makes no sense. Your rights to download Nintendo Switch ROMs? Where does that even make sense? It doesn't make sense. So I almost think either it is the guy that they say it is, or it's just somebody else and that's a front. If it is the guy, has he fled? Is he gone? I know this is some crazy stuff, but when you're looking at this, it just seems crazy to me. Now you got this, you're still advertising you're the best damn ROM site in the universe, high-speed upgrade available, this many members, we got all these new downloads that you could get, and everything's just going on business as usual. But hey, we want to defend your rights and ROM Universe's rights to continually put uploads for Nintendo Switch and 3DS games. Nintendo Switch more relevant because these are all games that are continually being released. Damn thing's in its prime, sound like hotcakes. And I mean, in a few days, is he going to upload the Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening? Most likely, because there's something going on here. But besides that, holy crap, I'm going to keep digging. I said, I don't want to implicate somebody who's not involved, but I'm going to keep digging into this because there's something fishy going on here. But I also was looking at this article that I found interesting. It's definitely relevant to this story. Is downloading retro video games ROMs ever legal? And this is a definite big gray area thing. This article is not just about the downloading of it, but it's also about the sharing, doing the stuff that the best ROM site in the universe is doing. Making games available to people who don't own them, downloading them illegally. There's no question about that. But there is some gray area stuff, and I did kind of dig this article. It's not that old. It's from, it looks like it was updated late last year. But in this article, they did speak to Derek E. Bambauer, who teaches internet law and intellectual property at the University of Arizona's College of Law. So essentially they're saying, there's no definitive answer. There's a lot of hypothetical stuff going on in here, but it's still interesting nonetheless, in my opinion. But right here, emulators are almost certainly legal. And one of the issues with that is, like they state here, an emulator is just a piece of software, and most of the times doesn't contain any proprietary code. It's been written by somebody or a team of somebody's from the ground up, some John and Jane Does, or possibly people who want to be known, but they're legal. The exception, of course, is BIOS files. If you're using a BIOS file that was created by that company, then that becomes the legal issue there. So the other part of this, but emulators aren't useful without games or ROM files. In the United States, and this is something I heard somebody in one of my comments say not too long ago, but they had it a little off. Like they're like, oh, in so many years, this will be like in the public domain. But I mean, there's still things to public domain where they can extend it, I believe. I'm not a lawyer. I can't really speak on these things, but I have to dig into that sometime. But they state here in the United States, copyright, excuse me, copyright protects works for 75 years, meaning no major console titles will be in public domain for decades. When was Atari games that came out? The late 70s, early 80s. So you're looking at 75 years after that, public domain. NES games, Super Nintendo games, late 80s to the mid to late 90s, that kind of thing. 75 years from then. Nintendo Switch, 75 years from now. That kind of thing. But it's definitely something like you can't use that. There's no public domain as of yet. Not for a long time. We'll be definitely beyond a lot of our times before you can just say, you know what, it's in the public domain, it's mine, I'm taking it. Or I'm going to make a website and just host it. So the one thing they talk about, and it's something I find really interesting because you have to deal with this on YouTube, is fair use. The possible exception for ROMs is fair use. Possible. But it's not necessarily a surefire thing here. So they state here, let's assume I have an old Super Nintendo and I love Super Mario World, so I download a ROM and play it. That's a violation of copyright. You don't own the game, it's not legal. So going forward, they do state here, but is there a legal defense? Possibly if you already own the Super Mario World cartridge, but fair use is a fuzzy standard, not a rule. You have to fight for fair use. It's not just a given. And that's the thing that kind of screws up a lot of YouTube creators with that, with fair use. There's a lot of misunderstandings with that. There has to be clear-cut cases that rule for specific things because, like I said, it's a fuzzy standard. It's not a rule. So he states here, he says he could imagine, not a fact, few possible defensible scenarios if I own a copy of Super Mario World and I can play it whenever I want. But what I'd really like to do is play it on my phone or my laptop. In this case, downloading a ROM could legally be defensible. You could possibly defend against that because you own the cartridge, but it's fuzzy. It's not a rule. You're not giving the game to anybody else. You're just playing a game you already own. But then who knows about that? Nobody. That's why a lot of times they're going after the people hosting, distributing, not the people downloading. They still could, but for the most part, that's how it goes. Now, this isn't black and white, just a potential legal argument. It's by no means a slam dunk argument, but it by no means a silly one. After all, Nintendo could argue that by emulating the game on your phone instead of buying their official port of a game, they're losing money because they could provide that game again in another format for the Nintendo Switch as an example, and you're not paying for that Switch Online because you're playing the game on your phone instead, and it doesn't matter that you already own the cartridge. It is available in a sense where they can profit from it, and you're taking away from that. So they could fight against you on that as well. It's fuzzy. That's the biggest thing. Gray area stuff, fuzzy stuff. What if you rip your own ROMs? This is another thing. If you're ripping your own ROMs and you're not distributing them, who the hell is going to know about it? Doesn't, it's not that big a deal. A common argument online is that extracting a ROM from a cartridge you own is perfectly legal, but downloading ROMs from the web is a crime. So after all, ripping a CD you own with iTunes or other software is broadly considered legal, at least in the United States. So why wouldn't it be the same in this case, right? So is ripping a ROM you own any different than downloading one? Probably not, says Bam Bauer. In both cases, I'm probably saying his name wrong, but whatever. In both cases, what you're doing is creating an additional copy. Now, Bam Bauer could imagine constructing an argument about how one is different than the other, and he admits the optics are different, but he doesn't think the situations are all that distinct, legally speaking. I think if the argument is, if I were a skilled engineer, I could extract this and have a copy. If we assume for a moment that if I did that, it would be fair use, then it shouldn't be different. So that's one thing. I mean, if you're not sharing it, you're not getting caught, you're not advertising it, you're not going to get in trouble. I don't think Nintendo's really going to go after you because you decided to back up all your stuff, right? No, but the second you put it online and you become the best ROM site in the galaxy or the universe or the earth or wherever you're located, that's when it's a problem because now you're sharing it with people. Sharing ROMs is ambiguously illegal. Struggling with words today, man. The fair use argument is potentially very wide-reaching, but there are limits. The trouble comes when it's no longer just me having a copy, it's giving other people a copy. Yep, exactly it. Consider the entertainment industry. The RIAA and the MPAA have found more luck going after the sites and people sharing music rather than the downloaders. They still do go after the downloaders occasionally, but most times bigger fish to fry is, getting the people hosting and providing it. For ROMs, it's largely works the same way, which is why sites that share games are so frequently shut down. Not ROM Universe. They're still pumping them out. New games daily. We don't give a fuzz about the legal actions from Nintendo. We're just going to still do what we're doing, which is why I say there's got to be something really going on with this guy. There's no slam dunk here. He's doing something illegal. He is not going to win in a court case. So that's why I'm like, does he even exist? Seriously, think about it. That's going to blow your mind right there. What if a game isn't currently on the market? And this is one we hear all the time. Many people argue online that if a game isn't currently available, downloading a ROM is illegal. After all, there can't be market harm if a game is not currently for sale. So that argument might not be airtight. I don't believe it's airtight either. It's just an excuse that a lot of us use. And I'm not knocking anybody. I don't care if you download ROMs. I don't care if you use ROMs. Obviously, you're on my channel. We talk about ROMs all the damn time. But this guy is blatantly doing something wrong. And I'm just finding it very interesting how this thing is, kind of rolling out. There's a lot more going on than we know. On the one hand, he states there's no amount of money that will let me get a legal copy of this game. On the other side of the argument, there's what Disney does. Disney's strategy is to put classic movies in the vault. And you guys who follow this stuff know that. Disney will release a movie. It's released for a limited time on VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, and then boom, back in the vault it goes. It's no longer accessible. Instead of leaving films constantly on the market, they state here, they periodically re-release them, which builds up demand and increased sales because then people discover these movies or, whatever. And they're like, man, I want to buy a copy of The Little Mermaid and it's not available. It's in the vault. I don't know all this stuff, but you know what I'm saying. I don't know if that movie's available or not, or if it's vaulted up, but you get the idea. So they build up that demand. People want it. And then boom, release for a limited time. It's that hype. It's that, hey, it's going back into the vault. So people, oh my God, I got to get this one. And, so that's one thing that they state here, that video game companies could argue the same, that they're holding back to build demand, right? That's a logical argument. It may not be true, but it's an argument that video game companies can use. It's a close case, says Bam Bauer, and it hasn't been tested a lot, but they could make that argument. At the same time, he notes, A game not currently being on the market could potentially be a useful part of a defense, particularly if you're downloading a game you already own. I couldn't buy a copy anyway, and I already own a copy, so it's kind of like owning a CD and ripping it on my own. Similar idea, but gray area stuff. There's no like in stone answer here when it comes to all this stuff, because it has to be defended in court on that end of the spectrum of, you know, ROMs to really say for sure. Then in closing, they state all this is mostly hypothetical. You're probably starting to see a pattern here. ROMs are such a gray area because there are potential legal defenses on both sides, but no one's truly tested these arguments before. Really, if one thing is clear, though, it's this. If you don't own a legal copy of the game, you don't have any right to download it. Yes, even if you delete it after 24 hours or other such nonsense. I remember seeing that so many times. Download this and delete it in 24 hours. Like you have like a free trial period. Like with, okay, so if I go to this site and I download a Daemon X Machina, 20, like as long as I delete it in 24 hours, like legally I did nothing wrong. No, that's not the way it works. You downloaded it illegally. Now these guys, they don't seem to give a crap. And that's why I found this article interesting, because how are they going to defend their and your rights? I mean, they're not really testing the stuff that we talked about in this article. They're testing something where they're obviously in violation of copyright, you know, fair market, all sorts of different infringements. They're in violation of a lot of things. That's why it's going to court. So I just don't get it. Is this just a scam to make more money? And there really isn't going to be any legal defense funds. You know, this isn't going to be used for legal defense funds. Let me know what you guys think. Drop it down below. I read everything. I don't think this is the end of this. I'm going to be following this because I find this story more interesting than the other stories. But yeah, really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. And with that said, I will catch y'all next time. Peace out, bye-byes, and boom. Boy!